When it comes to culture, everyone is able to gatekeep and deny access and control entry to their cultural norms, traditions, customs, etc. People from different cultural and ethnic groups are able to do that, and nobody bats an eye or has a problem with it, except when Black people do it, especially when Black Americans try to control and gatekeep aspects of their culture. People have a huge problem with it, and I don't like that. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today we are talking about something that I've really noticed since the era of They Not Like Us, which is turning a year old. Actually, no, I believe it was Euphoria that recently turned a year old, and then They Not Like Us dropped not shortly afterwards. So we have been, just in the past year, in the past several months, we have been in this era of They Not Like Us. Black people are talking about gatekeeping their cultural norms, customs, and traditions, and a lot of people are reacting and responding very negatively to it. There are so many examples of this that have happened over time. It happens with bamboo earrings, long nails, grills, cornrows, braids. Remember when Kim Kardashian had those braids in and people were calling them boxer braids, and we were like, excuse me, those were cornrows. Those are cornrows, okay? What are you talking about, boxer braids? There are so many examples of trends and aspects of Black culture that are demonized and called ghetto, especially when it comes to aspects of Black women's culture and traditions when it comes to beauty, how we do our hair, our makeup, etc. Those things are called ghetto until they're appropriated by a white woman or by a non-Black woman, taken mainstream. All of a sudden it becomes accessible, acceptable, and popularized by mainstream society. It becomes something that's desirable and praised when white women or non-Black women do it. However, when Black women engage in this behavior, and it's so crazy to say when Black women engage in this behavior because it is a part, or these are aspects of Black culture, fashion, food, whatever. So when Black women, specifically in the nature of Black women's fashion, our hair, our nails, beauty, etc., when Black women are just existing within their own beauty standards, when it comes to our hair and our nails, it's seen as, you know, the baby hairs. That's something that's become huge and trending. But when Black women did it, it was ghetto, it was ugly, it was undesirable. There are so many examples of that happening. And it's not just with beauty and fashion, it's with music, it is with art, it is with style, and now it's with line dancing. Somehow I stumbled upon line dancing TikTok, and there is this controversy that's happening, which has sparked this new conversation and basically my desire to make this video when it comes to cultural appropriation and Black people, specifically Black Americans, trying to gatekeep their culture. Now I want to be very mindful that I am, even though I am Black and I call myself a Black American, I am a first generation Nigerian American. So while I am not of Black American culture, I do think that this is really interesting to talk about, because if I am able to see it as not necessarily an outsider, but someone who is Black and in America, if I'm able to see the ways Black culture, Black American culture is appropriated, especially by non-Black and white people, and I am someone who is a child of immigrants, a first generation child of immigrants, it's very interesting to me how white people are not able to see it, but I do think that white people are able to see it, and they are very aware of what's happening, because I think a lot of people try to make excuses for white Americans and say, oh, they don't know what's happening because they lack culture, they try to appropriate everyone else's culture, and because of the legacy of colonization and colonialism and appropriating and stealing from other people's culture, people are like, oh, that's just in white people's nature. And you know, true, yes, but I do think a lot of white people also recognize, particularly the white people who are benefiting from cultural appropriation, they know what they're doing, but they're not going to speak out against it because they know it benefits them. The Jenner sisters, for example, they got their fame off of appropriating and cosplaying as Black women, and this is because a lot of people, specifically white people, a lot of people enjoy Black aesthetics and Black culture, Black music, but Black food, Black art. They enjoy all of these aspects of Blackness and Black culture, but they do not like Black people. So when non-Black people take on and ascribe these pieces of Black culture, it is more palatable to non-Black people who do not care for Black people, and they're more likely to receive it positively negatively when it is being cosplayed and adorned and worn and stylized and made mainstream by non-Black people in a way that wouldn't be celebrated when Black people are engaging in aspects of their own culture. Let's backtrack real quick because I wanted to bring up the current controversy that is going on right now when it comes to line dancing, which is an aspect of Black culture. I somehow stumbled on line dancing TikTok, and I'm not mad about it because I learned so many new things. Like, for example, the line dancing get-togethers and gatherings, those are called trail rides. And I am from the Northeast, okay? I'm from the DMV. So my understanding of trail rides is very different than people doing line dances. I think I like line dances being called trail rides at those gatherings as opposed to what I know as trail rides, which is essentially getting in a wagon during the fall, of course, and you go to a pumpkin patch and you're picking pumpkins and they'll take you on a trail ride around the pumpkin patch or the farm, or it's a haunted house kind of thing. And the last time I was on a trail ride was like 10 years ago, and it was boring. And it was, you know what, it wasn't necessarily boring. It was just that it was cold, and I do not like being cold. I think the cold is overrated. I don't understand people who casually enjoy and want to partake in cold weather activity, but the afterwards was fun. Like, I like bonfires, so we were able to gather around the fire and drink and commune and fellowship, and that was really fun. But being on the wagon itself, we couldn't have a fire in there. There were no heaters, so we had only blankets and everybody's body heat, and it was a haunted ride, a haunted trail ride, so there were people popping out of the woods, and I was like, I hate this. Let's go, like, speed it up. I'm trying to get to the campfire. Anyways, let's talk about line dancing, the cultural appropriation that's happening within the line dancing community right now, and a larger conversation about gatekeeping aspects of Black culture. I stumbled upon some controversy happening in the line dancing community. I don't know how I wound up on line dancing TikTok, but I'm not mad about it. Okay, so here's the tea. It's a tale as old as time, in all honesty, especially on TikTok. So a biracial but white appearing girl by the name of Janelle Sinab, I think I'm saying her name right or wrong. Hopefully I'm saying it right. She goes by JayBarbie, and she popularized a line dance. It was the Morgan Wallen and Twista mashup that another girl created, and she's now going around. She popularized the dance allegedly and is now going around going to shows and showing up for $6,000, charging $6,000 for an appearance to do these line dances. So tale as old as time, right? This is the whole Charlie D'Amelio. Is that her name? Charlie D'Amelio, whatever. That girl who stole the renegade dance and made it popular on TikTok and was on the Tonight Show and was getting all of these TV appearances. Meanwhile, the originator of the dance was not credited and didn't get as much shine. That's what's happening right now. The thing is, that girl, JayBarbie, is immersed in controversy because she showed up to one line dance, and then another person at the line dance got up and did this dance on stage, and I guess she was upstaging JayBarbie, and JayBarbie was like, you can't fuck with me, and was doing the dance or whatever. And here's the thing. We gotta own this. Black people, we gotta own this, because like I said, this is a tale as old as time. A non-Black person comes into Black spaces doing something that is associated with Black culture, dancing a certain way, singing, rapping, doing hair, basically anything that is associated with Black culture. These culture vultures come in, steal it, do it on an okay level, not a lot of the time, not even better than Black people, on the same level, but because they are non-Black, they are put on a pedestal. And we do this, right? Because I started watching JayBarbie and the appearances she was making, the line dance, whatever they call these arenas. What do you call a place where people are doing line dances? Not a honky tonk, I guess a bar or club specifically for line dances. I don't know. But anyways, she's showing up to all of these places, and they're not white spaces. These are predominantly Black people in these spaces. So these promoters are paying this girl $6,000 to show up in Black spaces and do the same dances that their Black patrons are doing. And those Black people are very likely paying to get into the spot. And if there's not a cover, they're paying for drinks, they're paying for food. So they're keeping these doors open. Meanwhile, this biracial but white appearing woman is coming in and doing the same thing, not necessarily even better, but is being put on a pedestal and rewarded for doing something that we
we do naturally. It's just crazy to me. But the more this happens, the less I'm going to put this on non-black people, because it is black people putting this girl on the pedestal. I start going into her comments because, you know, I'm curious. I'm a Gemini. I be looking at things. I be looking. And so I'm going into her comments and black people are like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. You're better than people. People keep hating. They're jealous. And I'm like, we are doing this. We cannot put it on non-black people anymore. It's us. It's us.
Caveat, since posting that video, I have found out that JayBarbie is actually a white woman. Her stepfather is black. I was referring to her as biracial because she herself plenty of times was on camera saying, oh, my mom is white and my dad is black. Come to find out that it is her stepdad who is black. So biologically, she is a white woman. She may culturally be raised and immersed in black culture, because I did see a few videos of her on her page with her, I think that she referred to this little girl as her niece, and the girl looked black, and then her stepfather is black, as she says. She is being raised in a household where black culture is present, and obviously she's very comfortable within black spaces. However, what makes this particular there are so many things about this particular situation that make this level of cultural appropriation very insidious. At worst, it is just weird, and at best it is very insidious. There are white interlopers. There are people who appropriate black culture, and they themselves are not going to speak out against how wrong it is because they are benefiting from it. And she is absolutely benefiting from white privilege in that space, but she is also benefiting from a lot of black people's internalized anti-blackness, light-skinned privilege, because a lot of people are saying she is biracial. When people thought she was biracial, they were saying, oh, people are hating on her because she is just light-skinned. And that's just such an ignorant perspective and very annoying, because anytime dark-skinned black women bring up colorism in the community, which if she was biracial and light-skinned, she would absolutely be benefiting from colorism. And any and every single time dark-skinned black women talk about colorism or try to bring it up, there will always be the people who will say, oh, dark-skinned black women, y'all just hating on the light-skinned girl. And it's just like, can we have a conversation as adults about things that are happening in our society without someone immediately jumping to, oh, you're just jealous, or you're just hating, or you're you know, it's just so like, it's so childish and annoying to have certain levels, to try and have certain conversations with people, because these people just don't get it. They don't think on a higher level. What is also annoying about the, oh, you're just jealous, or you're just envious, or you're just hating, what is also annoying about that accusation is that it is very clearly an ad hominem and a way of moving the goalpost from the topic at hand. There are some people who are not aware of the fact that it is an ad hominem attack or a way of the person trying to move a goalpost, and they will focus on defending their character, that they're not jealous, that they're not hating, instead of recognizing that the person who is saying that, they don't A, have a tangible argument against what you are saying, or B, they are trying to manipulate you. So the conversation, instead of talking about the cultural appropriation in this particular situation, the issue at hand, now all of a sudden it becomes an attack on you, and you're trying to defend your character. And so because I'm very aware of what people are trying to do with the whole you're jealous or you're hating conversation, it really doesn't work on me, but it is annoying because I've seen so many great videos of people explaining why what she is doing is wrong. Then you go into their comment section and it's just like people are calling them out and they're saying they're hating and they're saying they're jealous, and it's just like, oh my God, we are adults, can we have a conversation? But in the greater context of cultural appropriation and gatekeeping, what makes Janelle's behavior, or JayBarbie's behavior, just so disappointing is because it is another situation in which a white person steals I won't say steals, because allegedly she has given the creator of the dance credit, but it is somebody who takes the creations and contributions of a black person without crediting them or even doing it really better than them. Because I'm not sitting here saying that JayBarbie can't dance. However, it is generally baffling to me from seeing what she is doing and seeing her dances that she is being paid $6,000 to show up to these trail rides and do that when she is not doing it not only is she not doing it better than the creator, it's not being done in a space where she is educating and teaching other people how to do the line dance. She's just on stage doing the dance by herself, which makes it even more weird. Like, there are just so many layers and levels to this, because line dancing is a community-oriented activity. There is something so beautiful and powerful about people moving as one. And as Black people are resting in this era, in this current administration, Black people are resting and they're taking up hobbies. And one of these hobbies that Black people, it's always been a part of Black culture. Line dancing has always been a part of Black culture, but a lot of people are falling back and looking for joy. You find joy in dance, you find joy in community activity. And so a lot of Black people are going back to line dancing, and it is becoming popularized on social media. There are so many line dances out there. Like, I still haven't learned the Tamia dance, and I'm probably not going to, because that jaunt is hard, okay? There's too many quarter turns and they be kicking and stomping. I'm like, I don't got time for this. I need a detailed description and picture tutorial and verbal tutorial about how to do this dance, because I just can't get it. But anyways, all of this to say, line dancing is becoming popular again as it is being made mainstream, because it is something that Black people are doing and bringing to TikTok. And TikTok, without Black people, without Black people's contributions and creativity, it was nothing. I remember a few years ago, especially after the Renegade controversy, a lot of Black people who had created these dances were like, we're not creating anything. And the app was dry for a few months, because Black people were like, we're taking a step back and we're gonna let all of the non-Black people who popularize and take our dances and run off with it without giving it credit. Let's see you create something. And what happened? Dances weren't being created. TikTok was very dry. And so line dancing, that rhythmic moving, coming up with different dances, that is a part and an aspect of Black culture, and an aspect of not just Black culture, but Black communal culture, community-oriented culture, where you're moving together. So to see this white woman who is an interloper in the community, she is being elevated in this space solely because of her whiteness, because a lot of Black people are titillated by non-Black people doing something ascribed and associated with Black culture. A lot of Black people are titillated and fascinated and just wowed by white people doing these things and non-Black people. And so she is being elevated and put on a pedestal in Black spaces, being paid money to do this dance on a literal pedestal, on a literal stage by herself, removed from this community. It is, the optics of it are absolutely insane. I'm happy that we're finally at a place where we can call out this insanity, because there is a long history of white people being rewarded for the bare minimum in Black spaces. And it's not just white people, it is non-Black people as well. They just show up in these spaces and do something associated with Black culture, do it marginally well, and Black people are ready, not Black people all, some Black people are ready to clap and give them money. And then simultaneously, because here's what I don't like, when they get bigger than the program, because if Janelle or JayBarbie didn't say, you can't fuck with me, if she didn't get up there and say that, I don't think people would really be mad, right? So the only thing that happened was she got bigger than the program. She really thought that she was doing something in these spaces, and people were like, oh no, girl, you got too much dip on your chip. We were just humoring you, calm down. But why wouldn't her head get big if she's being elevated in these spaces? If she's making $6,000 to come to a space and neck buck at us and slither on a stage, like, why wouldn't she get hype off of that? Why wouldn't her head get big? It's like, you give this person, you build them up, you give them this big platform, and all of a sudden y'all want to simultaneously be the same people to tear her down. Like I said, Black people, we gotta own this, but at the same time, as Black people, we gotta own this. Like I said, there is a long history of non-Black people being rewarded for the things that Black people do well, but there is also a long history of Black people, especially in America, not being able to control, own, and even write their own history. And I think what we're seeing now, this desire to gatekeep Black culture, is born out of that history of not being able to gatekeep our
culture, not being able to have certain aspects of our culture, of Black culture, Black American culture. Black Americans were not able to have and own that aspect of history to themselves. Just like I said in the intro, when it comes to everybody else, when it comes to everybody else's culture and ethnicity, they are allowed to gatekeep every single aspect of their culture. They are allowed to deny and allow access into certain parts of their culture in a way Black Americans are not able to. And it's not even that they are not able to, it is that there is a certain animus I've noticed every single time Black Americans try to say, hey, this is ours. We popularized this. We made this hot and you need to give us credit. When it comes to braids, for example, every year there's a different white girl who does this. So I don't know which white girl is doing it this year, but there are so many white women and girls who get on TikTok and or get on social media and they will be wearing braids and they will be saying, oh, braids are not just for Black people. It's not just Black people who made braids or created these styles. You know, people say, oh, Vikings created braids. These elaborate braiding styles are of Vikings. It doesn't own, Black people don't own braids. And the same thing happened with grills and bamboo earrings and nameplate necklaces when all of these things all of a sudden, and baby hairs, oh my gosh, when all of a sudden these things became mainstream culture and Black people are like, wait a minute, that was us. Like, okay, that was us. You look good doing it. We're the blueprint though. We're the blueprint. Every single time Black people, especially Black Americans, say we are the blueprint, there is so much energy and anger from everyone, not just white people, but from people of a lot of other cultural backgrounds who will come out and say, oh no, we've been doing this and y'all don't own this and y'all don't own that. And I think a part of it is because, especially when it comes to Black American culture, just like I said, Black Americans were not able to own their history. For the longest time, Black people, it was a crime for Black people to read in this country, for Black people to write in this country. We already know to the victor goes the spoils, but to the victor also goes history. And the victor gets to say and record and write history, their version of history, a history that may not be reflective of reality. And so when I think of certain even creations, because it's not just fashions, it's not just trends, it's not just hair, it's not just makeup, it's not just dancing, but literal inventions, literal things in our society that were created by Black people, but because they could not own their history in this country. They could not own their contributions because every single time Black people succeeded in this country, there was always a force to punch them down. They couldn't even patent their own creations. So there are so many things that are out there that we have learned and been taught were created by this white man, that white woman, this person, etc., that were actually created by Black people. But because they couldn't own patents for these things, they couldn't copyright things, they couldn't even write, some could not write and read for hundreds of years in this country. When your history is controlled by those who have a vested interest in your subjugation, your contributions to so many aspects of culture are minimized, appropriated, co-opted, and sometimes completely erased. That is what has happened time and time and time again in history. And the reason why I keep on emphasizing written is because a lot of African cultures and cultures of the diaspora outside of Africa, they lean heavily into oral history, oral traditions. Europeans and the West, however, they do not really value oral traditions and oral history. We value and put on a pedestal anything that's written, anything that can be confirmed or legitimized. And so this is why I'm putting so much emphasis on written history, because when you write something down and you put it in a book, and again, you are the one being subjugated, your oppressor has a vested interest in subjugating you and also controlling your narrative and image. There's this idea that Black people are lazy. We don't create anything. We can't put our name on anything. And it's so funny. It's not, like I said, it's not just food. It's not just trends. It's not just hair. It's not just culture. It's also something as simple as whiskey. I was recently in New Orleans and we took a tour of the Sazerac house. In the Sazerac house, they had a floor that talked about how rum was made, and they credit rum with being made in the Caribbean
Caribbean because it's a byproduct of sugar. And there were sugar plantations all over the Caribbean. And who was working those sugar plantations? Slaves. Black slaves, Black Caribbean slaves. So there is no way you can not credit them with the creation of rum because it was made on slave plantations. But in America, whiskey, when I was in the Sazerac house and touring the house and they were talking about whiskey, there was nothing about Black Americans' contributions to whiskey. And I'm like, if we can accept that rum was made on sugar plantations in the Caribbean, and we got all of this grain and corn and rye that are required to make whiskey, right? And the growing of this whiskey is happening on farms. Who was working those farms? Like, it is undeniable that there were very likely Black people involved in the creation of whiskey. But because the history of whiskey is ascribed to and written by white men, Black people and their contributions to whiskey are very likely have been erased. So when you are not in control of your narrative, when you are not in control of your history, other people can come in and write it and minimize your contributions at best or completely erase your contributions at worst. Yes, we are 160 years away from slavery being made illegal, being abolished in this country. However, the effects of slavery still linger and exist to this day. And one of those effects is the contributions of Black people to every aspect of history and culture in this country. Black history is American history. Black culture is American culture, but so many aspects of Black culture are demonized in this country until and unless a non-Black person is popularizing it or engaging in that activity. And then all of a sudden, it is something worth being celebrated and seen and viewed as trendy or cool and put on a pedestal, but only when it is being done and worn by non-Black people. Because none of us exists in a vacuum. Culture is created by connection. So I don't think there is anything wrong with anybody wanting to participate in aspects of other people's cultures and be involved or learn or be educated or just observe. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. However, like I said, everyone else from other cultural and ethnic groups are allowed to gatekeep and decide who they are going to deny and allow access when it comes to their cultural norms, traditions, and history. And nobody has an issue with it. People are respectful of that. But all of a sudden, when Black people want to exercise the same gatekeeping, when Black Americans want to exercise the same gatekeeping, all of a sudden it becomes a problem, and we should be open and we should be welcoming. And in part, that is probably the reason why some of this is happening, because some Black people are a little too warm to people and welcome, because Black people are just the most welcoming people, the most forgiving people. You know, anybody who wants to come into Black culture and learn, Black people will welcome them with open arms and give away the recipes. Like, when people say we're losing recipes, we absolutely are. But it's not like we're losing recipes. We are giving away recipes. It's prom season now. And, you know, I'm seeing all the fashions and I'm loving it. And I came across this one girl's prom dress and I thought, oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. Turns out it was made by a Nigerian designer in Nigeria. And the girl comes in and she wears her dress and she says, oh my God, this is great. And then after prom, she starts talking about all of the issues with the dress. And a lot of Nigerians, because, you know, Nigerians, we are real prideful people. We're like, wait a minute, you're not going to flame us. This dress was great. You didn't have a problem with it when you were wearing it at prom. And all of a sudden it's an issue. Like, no, that's so disrespectful. And there were a lot of people in the comments like, oh, just calm down. It's just a dress. And it's just like, no, ashobis are not just a dress. Nigerian culture, there is meaning, there's tradition, there is history in the attire, in the traditional wear, in the traditional dress. So no, it's not just a dress. I don't think anybody would have the audacity to say that about a non-Chinese person wanting to wear a piece of Chinese attire that is ascribed to their culture and has significant cultural meaning. So I don't think anybody would be as willing to just dismiss it as a dress, because it seems like a lot of people also do not respect aspects of Black culture, and not just Black American culture, but different cultures of the diaspora. diaspora, the Caribbean, Africa, certain parts of Africa, and other parts of the diaspora, a lot of people don't respect Black culture insofar as what they can extract from it for their own enjoyment, for their entertainment, or their own financial and monetary gain. There is no way that a Black woman would be able to go to a predominantly white space, of white people line dancing or maybe Irish dancing. There is no way a Black woman who became really good at river dancing, she would not be able to stroll into a club in Ireland or an Irish bar or club in America and charge $6,000 to do Irish jigs. So why are Black people paying a white woman $6,000 to come into their space and do a dance that is not hers, that she is not teaching anyone, that she didn't create? It's wild to me. It is absolutely wild to me. But the only reason why she is doing this is because she can get away with it. And she can get away with it because Black people are the ones who have created the environment that have made it so a lot of non-Black people come into our spaces and they do whatever it is that they do, not particularly well a lot of the time, but they do it nonetheless. And people are so just like mesmerized by non-Black people doing Black things that they'll throw money at them and they'll do golf claps. And it's just like, we have created the environment for that happening. And so Black people, and this goes for Africans too, and Caribbeans, if your culture is worth gatekeeping and defending, fight for it and stop allowing interlopers into your space. Kendrick Lamar dropped They Not Like Us a year ago. Okay, so fast forward a year later, why is this still happening? If They Not Like Us and we know it, is it only happening because it is a white woman doing this? Because if I'm being completely honest, non-Black men do not often get to be in Black spaces and benefit the same ways in which non-Black women come into Black spaces and benefit and eat off of our culture. And I think two things are happening here. One, there's a lot of internalized anti-Blackness, but also two, misogynoir. Dark-skinned Black women are on the receiving end of a lot of vitriol and colorism. And when you exist in a space of colorism, there are some Black people who still unfortunately have a very colorist mentality where they think white is right and anything closest and closer to whiteness, they are going to amplify and elevate and put on a pedestal. We see this time and time and time again when it comes to Black women, especially dark-skinned Black women, not getting as much shine when it comes to their careers, when it comes to their art, whatever it is they're doing, in comparison to non-Black women or light-skinned women who are doing the same thing, not as well a lot of the time, but are given more shine simply because they are desirable in a lot of Black men's eyes because of colorism. And if I'm being completely honest, I find that a lot of Black women are more inclined to protect Black culture as a whole in comparison to Black men, especially if the subject at hand is a woman and a desirable non-Black woman or a light-skinned Black woman at that. In closing, again, I want to be very clear that culture is shared. As someone who is a child of Nigerian immigrants raised in America, who has a very diverse friend group, I have grown up all my life being immersed in different cultures, and I'm able to appreciate the different cultures I have been immersed in and have been given the privilege of partaking in, but I also know my place and I am very respectful to never overstep. And that is the distinction I find when it comes to Black people in other people's spaces. Black people are very generally as welcoming as we are when it comes to everybody else being a part of our culture. When we go to other people's cultures and into other people's spaces, we are in a position of listening, learning, observing, taking in, celebrating, appreciating. And I find that there are some people of cultural groups who come into our spaces and behave the same way. However, that is not the case for everyone who comes into Black spaces. And if we are genuinely in a place where we are trying to protect and gatekeep our culture, we need to be mindful of the fact that A, we are not feeding into internalized anti-Blackness and also colorism, because like I said before, and as I'll say it again, every single time there is an interloper in Black spaces, it is 9 times out of 10 a non-Black or light-skinned Black woman, and let me make a little caveat here. When they thought that she was biracial, they were giving her behavior a pass because she has one Black parent. Somebody who has one Black parent is not Black. They are biracial. And I really think we need to get away from the one drop rule. There are people who have completely abandoned it, and now we're saying this person is biracial. They're not just Black, they're not just white, they are biracial, right? And there has to be room for that. We need to stop ascribing to the one drop rule and ascribing Blackness to somebody just because they have a Black parent or a Black grandparent, especially if they do not identify that way. In my last video, when I was talking about Monet McMichael and the fact that she is a biracial woman, somebody came into my comments and was like, I think it's a little brain dead to call her a non-Black or a biracial woman when she literally says she is Black. And I'm like, she says she is Black and Latina. I had never heard Monet McMichael call herself a Black woman. I have always heard her refer to herself as a biracial girl, or when she talks about her ethnicity or her racial background, she will say she is Black and Latina. So there is room for people to be biracial, and we just need to accept that. And a lot of people, when they were defending JayBarbie, they were like, oh, she's biracial. And like, and the only reason why she is still being paid and amplified and put on a pedestal is because she is a light-skinned biracial woman. If she was a dark-skinned Black woman, if she was even a brown-skinned Black woman, she would not be put on the same pedestal. So let's be very honest here. There is colorism at play here, and she is not biracial. She is white, and even if she was biracial, she never called herself Black, right? So I think we just need to be honest about the fact that if we want to gatekeep and protect our communities, we need to stop ascribing to misogynoir, internalized anti-Blackness, and putting anything non-Black on a pedestal. I think there is a way to, if we want people to respect Black culture, if we want people to respect Black American culture, Black Americans have to respect Black American culture. Black people have to respect Black culture and stop giving away the recipes and be so inviting of everybody. Not everybody can come to the cookout. It's weird. It's so freaking weird. I'm sorry. It is weird to me that anytime somebody hits a little two-stepper, they can pop lock and drop it pretty well. Oh, they're invited to the cookout. Like, what? My husband is white, and if somebody was like, he's not invited to the cookout, I'd be like, all right, hun, I'll bring you a plate, bye. You know, we don't need to, not everybody is invited to the cookout just because of their proximity to Blackness, okay? Be more stingy with your invites to the cookout. Be more discerning of your invites to the cookout. Like, come on now. Come on now. I'm so sick of this cookout rhetoric, and I'm so ready for it to die out, because how can people respect our culture and view it as something worth gatekeeping when we're giving it away to everybody over small stuff? They can dance, okay. They got baby hairs, okay. They talk with the blacccent. Okay, you should be embarrassed by that. You shouldn't be embarrassed by the fact that you want to give somebody tickets and invites to the cookout because they talk like this and they look like this. Come on now. Come on now. Like, let's be more discerning here. Let's be more discerning. At the end of the day, Black people have a right to gatekeep their culture. Black Americans have a right to gatekeep their culture. We also, at the same time, we cannot expect other people to respect Black culture when we are giving it away for nothing. When we are inviting people into the community and to the cookouts over nothing. Because people of other cultures and community groups do not do that. I could not speak fluent Chinese and be really good with a set of chopsticks and be welcome to the cookout. There are Black people who speak flawless Chinese, have lived in China for years, and they still talk about the experiences that they deal with. And that is the case for Black people in several parts of different countries, who marry into different cultures, who live in different countries, who speak the language, who are immersed in these cultures, and still they are regarded as outsiders, because those people, well, there's anti-Black racism, and we can't deny the effects of that. But also there is the aspect of that is their culture, and they're not going to willingly let interlopers into their culture. And we could learn a thing or two from people of those cultures. Yes, culture is meant to be shared, but it has to be done respectfully.
And respectfully, somebody who was charging $6,000 to make appearances at line dances, at trail rides, to do the dance that they themselves didn't create but stole from a Black woman without giving them credit, that is not someone you should be inviting to the cookout. That is an interloper. That is a white woman who has come into your space, who has appropriated your culture and is being celebrated for it. Let's wake it up here. Let's wake it up. Anyways, drop down into the comments and let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, peace out.